I just figured out something I forgot to mention about my complaints about the last episode. But why does it seem like this story's purposely picking on Sally for this? Sandra's right. She didn't have any plans on having premarital sex. I mean, Bunny did, but nobody seemed to have told Bunny, hey, no more going after Antoine. But from an earlier comment, Bunny just said she's still going after Antoine for sex. And nobody's telling her to stop. So, why is Sally getting singled out here? I feel like this fic is really demeaning to her at this point. Still, to be Evergreen. Lydia sat in her new hut, listening to the sounds of Knothole as midday drew close. The sounds were diminishing as the sun reached its zenith, beating mercilessly down on those unfortunate enough to be inside or in the shade. But Lydia would prefer to be out there. She loved to hear the summer as it tried to hang on before the fall moved in. But she had more important things to take care of. Lydia smiled at the child she held in her arms. Isabella was drifting off for her afternoon nap, fighting it as usual. She always fought going down for a nap. She loved to run around and drive her mother crazy. But Lydia was singing a song she herself had sung as a child. It had the same effect on Isabella that it had on her. Instant slumber. It was called All Things End, and what it looks like this. I don't know. I'm reading these lyrics as we speak, and you know what? They just sound too depressing for a good lullaby. I hope you don't mind, but I'm going to replace this with one of my favorite lullabies ever. Little child, be not afraid. The wind makes creatures of our trees, and the branches the hands do not real understand. And I am here today. And someday you'll know that nature is so. The same rain that draws you near me falls on rivers and on forest and sun, makes the beautiful world that you see in the morning. For you know, once even I was a little child, and I was afraid, but a gentle someone always came to dry all my tears, trace sweet secret fears, and to give a kiss goodnight. And now I am grown, and these years have shown that rain's a part of how life goes. But it's dark and it's late, so I'll hold you and wait till your frightened eyes do close. And I hope that you know that nature is so, that the same rain draws you near me. Falls on rivers and land and forest and sand, makes the beautiful world you see in the morning. Everything's fine in the morning. The rain will be here, gone in the morning, but I'll still be here in the morning. Wow, I hadn't sung that in years, people, and I'm crying. Wow, I didn't realize how beautiful that song was. Still, I need a moment. Lydia smiled as she ended her song, feeling her daughter's breathing grow soft and even. She stood up slowly, carried her to bed that Runner had built. He had foreseen the need of a bed with side rails that could be raised and lowered. It was really helpful as Isabella attempted to toss and turn in her sleep. Not that this guy would know. As she laid her in her bed, she realized how lucky she was to have found Knothole. She was reunited with some of her family and discovered a new cousin. Sandra was a nice kid, kind of reminded Lydia of herself at that age. Of course, she didn't have the body Sandra did, but she had thought she filled out quite well over the years. A soft knocking on the door interrupted her train of thought. "Come in," she said quietly. The door opened and Rosie walked in. "I see you wonder this is still is on," she said, smiling. And what is that? Lydia asked. I sang that very same lullaby to your mother and uncle, as I did to Sally, as I hope to her children. Lydia smiled warmly. So that's where Mother got it from. She never said. I learned that song as a teenager, she said, wiping a tear from her eye. Well, she wasn't the only one that was crying during that song. It's something wrong. Just some old memories resurfacing. Thomas taught me that song just before he had to leave. Every time I hear it, I remember how it used to be. And here we are again, so I've heard, Lydia said knowingly. Like I tell your cousin, we are too old for that nonsense. And like I'm sure she tells you, you're never too old. Rosie chuckled softly. Well, before I forget, Sally wants you to come to the war room. They're going over the holograph of Robotropolis to see where Bartnick could have hidden his emeralds. I just got Isabella to sleep, though. I'll mind her. I'll give an old woman something to do. Lydia smiled at that. I'll try not to be long. She tiptoed out of the hut and into the hot sunlight. Lydia took a deep breath, severing the heady scent in the hot human air. She walked slowly toward the war room, feeling the sun warm her body. She saw a few animals along the way, and most greeted her cordially. The rest, however, were looking at her in that all-too-familiar way. Lydia had seen those looks just before she was booted out of her old group. Though they were few and far between, they were beginning to annoy her. What right did they have to judge her? Seriously? Come on. This is just a little too unbelievable. I mean, she's not their princess, and I'm pretty positive some of them have already had marriage out of wedlock earlier, especially since it seems like the only priest in there hasn't been around for miles. Are you telling me that none of these animals have had sex? None? Sally would certainly put a stop to it if she knew, but Lydia knew the race was too important to disrupt with trivial matters. She let it go for now, but did not forget it. As she reached the war room, she saw Maurice and Patricia out for a walk. Patricia was starting to get big, but she didn't seem to mind. Maurice had become severely overprotective of her, making sure every little thing was taken care of. If anything, Patricia was becoming more annoyed with Maurice in the pregnancy. For the last time, I don't need a babysitter, she yelled at Maurice. But dear, I just want to make sure everything goes okay, Maurice protested. There's no harm in that, is there? I'll harm you if you don't knock it off. Lydia smiled as she watched him walk away. A pang of jealousy hit her. If only I'd had Jonathan with me for my pregnancy, she thought. Oh well, no use thinking about what might have been. She opened the door and walked into the war room. The heat outside was bad. The heat in the war room was almost unbearable. The air was still and unmoving. Not even a fan could stir the human mess. It made fur and clothes cling to the body until they were all daydreaming about relaxing in the cold river. When Lydia walked through the doorway, she was almost assaulted by the oppressive heat. I like the heat, she said, but this is too much. Why didn't someone open a window? They're all open, Sally said, wiping her brow. But without a wind to blow the air around, it doesn't make a difference. Ain't that the truth, Sally said. Any other day, we'd be swimming in a river. But we gotta find those emeralds. So, I gotta ask. If it's so hot, is this because of Robotnik's pollution holding in a lot of the gases? Or is it all this heat is because of the emeralds? I mean, I don't think it's happening, but wouldn't it be a cool plot twist if one of the big reasons for this race is that the emeralds are causing all the elements to go out of control? Like the wind's stopping, the seas are fading, the grass is dying and stuff like that. And If they don't do so, stop it in a year, that's when chaos comes out and starts destroying everything. It causes the elements to go even crazier. Like, say, one day, the winds stopped. The fires grew cold. The oceans dried. The grass died. Oh, I'm sorry, we'll see Final Fantasy. Too bad Sugar Dragon's not around, Bunny said, fanning herself with her hand. So we could cool off this room and another fight. Indeed, Antoine agreed. But she is reckoning for more emeralds. It is not even this hot in all. What does the word again, Bunny? Dojo, Antoine. Yes, Dojo. Which reminds me, we keep forgetting to thank everyone for helping build it. You too, Lydia. Well, you wouldn't help me on my own hut, so I had to do something. By the way, how's that bed I made for Isabella? Rora asked. Looks like a dream, Rhoda, Lydia answered, smiling. I don't mean to interrupt, Tails began, stopping himself. Again, I do. The faster we do what we have to, the faster we can do what we want. Good point, Miles, Sandra said. Let's get to work. Sally sighed and flipped on the holograph of the Robotropolis. Unfortunately, all that started to do was make the room hotter. Uncle Chuck has sent us these as possible locations of the emeralds, she said, plugging in Knothole to use the side of the protector and indicating the red dots that appeared. We need to figure out a way to get some animals in there to scope it out. Why don't we just walk in? Sonic asked. After all, Butnick can't attack us unless it's over an emerald. Maybe so, Sonic, but if we're there looking for one, and we get into a fight, he could claim he was defending an emerald and claim ownership of it. Didn't think of that, Sonic admitted. Okay, we'll figure out something. Meanwhile, in Robotropolis, Uncle Chuck was at his base, listening on Robotnik's plans. Metal Sonic, have the SWAT-bots at deep counting and found everything? You heard Robotnik ask. No, sir, Metal Sonic answered. I'll tell you when they report in. Very well, but you better keep me informed. Metal Sonic mumbled something Uncle Chuck couldn't hear, but he wouldn't have heard him if he hadn't spoken normally. That very moment, a loud explosion shook Robotropolis and drowned out all other sounds. What the devil? Uncle Chuck said. Sir, one of the SWAT-bot factories has been destroyed, Metal Sonic reported. Impossible, Robotnik thundered. The Freind Fires would never risk losing their emerald just to attack me like that. I want Knuckles here, and I want him now! I better take this out, Uncle Chuck thought, placing his headset down on the table. He stood up and headed down the maze of passageways that connected his base with Robotnik's command chamber. That settles it then, Sally said, slipping out the holograph. Sonic, Tails, and Brother will lead the first party. Bunny, Antoine, and Dulcie will lead the second, and we three princesses will lead the third. The last remark got the chuckle out of everyone. All right, calm down, Sandra said. I say we go do this tonight. For right now, I'm going to go for a swim. Anybody want to join me? Everyone there raised his or her hand. Tails even raised his tails. All right then, Sally said. Meet by the river in 10 minutes. Please let Sally be in a hot bikini. Please let Sally be in a hot bikini. Please let Sally be in a hot bikini. I'll be wanting all summer to try these out, Bunny said to Antoine as they all filed out the hut. About time I got to use them. I just hope I remember how to swim. If you do not, Antoine said, I cannot help you. Remember, I am never knowing how to swim. I'll fix it, Bunny said, smiling. If I could teach you martial arts, teaching how to swim would be a piece of cake. Let me see if Isabella's up yet, Lydia told her cousins. She loves to swim. See you later, Lydia called, heading for their hut. Robotnik paced impatiently in his command room. Where is he? He asked irritably. Did the hover units find anything at the factory? In order of asking, on his way, and no, Metal Sonic said. Not quite true, Robot, Knuckles said, stepping from the shadows. You wish to see me, Doctor? You know, this might be one of the coolest versions of Knuckles in fanfic history. If only because he's acting like a cool mage with all this cool stuff, mystery about him, and acting like a boss. The Freind Fires are attacking me, he exclaimed, indicating the screen with a sweeping motion of his arms. I demand they lose their emerald at once! Knuckles closed his eyes and concentrated. No, the race is still intact, he said. There are others, not bound by the race, who seek to do you harm. It can't be Donovan. He knows what I do. But then it must be. Robotnik's eyes flashed a glaring red as the knowledge hit him. Curse that snivelling little... What's it? Knuckles warned. I don't like hearing that language, and I could do something about it. Whoa, I didn't think I would hear the language beam this early. Robotnik glared at Knuckles, who responded with a cool gaze. Metal Sonic, we're ordered to swap us to Priority Alpha immediately. But that means do it! The team will want to know about this. Uncle Chuck thought from his hiding spot. He moved slowly, careful not to make any noise, and headed back to base. Dorian ran the streets of Robotropolis, evading swapbots as best as he could. But it seemed there were swapbots around every corner, and more came with every corner he turned. The safety of the forest was just a few meters ahead, and Dorian counted himself very lucky to have gotten out in one piece. Laser fire erupted behind him. Dorian turned his head to look and saw a few hoverships chasing him down. There were no side streets he could turn down, so he ran as fast as he could for the forest. Unfortunately, the hoverships were faster, and one of the laser shots caught him in his shoulder before he could reach the trees. Biting his lip against the pain, he swung himself up to a tree and waited. The hoverships passed by him seemingly without noticing him. He waited until they were out of sight before trying to climb back down. Pain exploding in his shoulder. Unprepared for it, Dorian fell from the tree onto the underbrush below. He dragged himself out of it, pulling free of the branches as it caught his fur and clothes. When he followed it at first, it was not without further injury. Dorian shook his head, trying to clear the haze from his sight. Seeing a familiar trail, he took down it, heading slowly on instinct. If he had been more aware of his surroundings, he would know he was heading in the opposite direction he should have. As it was, he could only continue down it, toward a place that had become all too unfriendly toward him. Lydia walked through the forest behind her hut, with Isabella skipping along behind her. Since the first night they had spent in Knothole, they had made a point of taking a walk in the forest just before they went to bed. It was a time they could have peace and quiet from the citizens of Knothole. They continued to walk, unaware someone was close by. Dorian realized with a start where his feet had taken him. Blast! He thought, should have never separated. Now I'll have to find a way around Robotropolis to get back. He took a step back along the path he had just come down, but fell to his knees. I've lost a lot of blood, he thought, passing a hand over the wound in his shoulder. I don't know if I'll be able to make it back to base. Just then he heard a rustling in the bushes around near him. He tried to hide himself, but he was far too weak to move. Mommy! Isabella said suddenly. I think someone's out there. It's just your imagination, Isabella, Lydia said, smiling. It's not, Isabella said, stamping her little foot. I heard someone in the bushes. Okay, let's check to see. Lydia and Isabella crept over to the bushes. Lydia thought it was an awesome game her daughter was playing. Imagine her surprise when she found a male dog face down, blood seeping from his shoulder. By the Almighty, she whispered. Yeah. Isabella said with what was supposed to be a smug grin, but it didn't come out that way. No time for that now, Lydia said. She tried to pick him up, but he was too heavy for her to carry. She looked around for something she could use as a stretcher when she heard the sound of dragon wings. She looked up and saw Dulcie coming in for a landing. Good timing, Dulcie, she said. You can help me get this guy back to Knothole. He's been hurt pretty bad. What happened to him? Dulcie asked, picking him up. But then she saw his face and she dropped him. Dulcie! Lydia exclaimed. It was a groan sounded from the dog. What did you do that for? Nuh-uh, no way. I'm not helping him. What? What are you talking about? Lydia, that's Dorian. You know, the one who was responsible for Sally getting roboticized. It is? Lydia looked down at Dorian's face. Somehow, she expected Dorian to be a monster. But when she looked at him, all she saw was pain. Even so, I can't just leave him here. He'll die if we don't help him. So let him die. Oh no, it's Parkbell. Run! Oh, why did you have to put it like that? Dulcie asked as he picked him up. I'll go to your hut, but you're on your own from there. Thanks, Dulcie, Lydia said. I'll meet you there. Dulcie frowned, an unusual expression for her. I'm such a pushover, she thought, carrying him toward Knothole. Gotta work on that. Dorian woke a few minutes later. He was in a dark, hot hut. The darkness was so complete he had to blink his eyes a few times to make sure they were open. Someone had brought him here and put him on this strange and unfamiliar bed. A quick examination showed that whoever had done this had also bandaged his shoulder and bound it to his body. You're awake, a voice said near him. I did not expect you until this morning. Dorian sat up suddenly and immediately yelped in pain, grinding his injured shoulder. Who's there? He asked. A torch flared to life, showing the form of a white female fox. A friend, she said simply. My name is Lydia. Dorian laid back down. I only have one friend, he muttered. But I thank you for your help, Miss Lydia. I am Dorian Nexford. I know who you are, and I know what you've done. And yet you'll still help me, Dorian asked incredulously. Why? Lydia took a rag of bowl of cold water and wrung it out. I'm not the kind who can stand by while another animal dies, no matter his crimes, she said softly, placing his rag on his forehead. Dorian smiled, looking into her garnet eyes. Again, I thank you. Lydia returned the smile dismissive easily. Her eyes glowed with a light that could not be dismissed by torchlight reflecting in her eyes. Mom? A small voice called sleepily. Lydia walked over to a nearby bed and picked up a young cat with the same color fur. Too many kitties, getting cat OD'd. Lydia walked over to a nearby bed and picked up the young cat. As she did, Dorian noticed Lydia's black t-shirt and shorts and couldn't help but admire her beauty. Nice ass. I'm sorry, Isabella, she said, hugging her daughter close. Did I like you? Isabella said, smiling. And not only are her ass is great, but so are her... Oh God, I hope she doesn't notice I'm looking. Your daughter? Dorian asked. Lydia nodded. Dorian, meet my daughter, Isabella. Isabella, this is the dog you helped me find before. His name is Dorian. Oh, Mr. Dorian, Isabella said sadly. Just Dorian, he said. I could see she got her mother's looks. Lydia blushed suddenly, her cheeks turning rose pink. Huh, I didn't mean to embarrass you, Dorian said quickly. I'm just not used to being complimented, Lydia explained, rocking Isabella in her arms. Oh, I'm sure you and your husband are very happy. Lydia looked down. I'm afraid her father is no longer with us, she said sadly. My condolences, Dorian said gravely. Want to be a replacement father? Of course. Sorry, couldn't help it. Lydia was about to say something when she was interrupted by a hard knocking on the door. She opened it and saw Sally standing there, arms folded. Where is he, Lydia? She asked, her voice cold. Lydia stepped outside and closed the door behind her. Sally, before you say anything, let me explain, she began, eyeing the crowd of animals behind Sally. Dulcie told me how you found him, and I can't fault you for wanting to help him. But I told you what he did to me and Sandra. He has been banned from Knothole permanently. I know, but what else was I going to help him? Give him to us, someone yelled from the crowd. We'll take care of him. Sally turned a cold stare on the crowd, which immediately quieted down. Hey, you see, Sally, this is why you shouldn't have to worry about people being upset if you got pregnant out of wedlock. You have that look that makes people confess to whatever crimes they did, including Shadow. There will be no vigilante justice here, she said. He's already been sentenced, and I will make sure he fulfills it. By royal right, Lydia began, drawing herself up to her full height, I can claim responsibility for anything a guest of mine does during his stay with me. I hereby claim this right in reference to one Dorian Nexford. Sally looked back at her cousin. You know what that means, she stated. Whatever he does in the time he's here, you will be held accountable for. Whatever sentence he will have gotten, you will get. I cannot protect you from that. I understand completely, and I accept it. So be it. Sally turned back to the crowd. No harm is to come to Dorian for as long as he is a guest of my cousin. If he breaks any of our laws, you'll report it to me or Sandra. Do not take matters into your own hands. A low grumbling came up from the crowd. Oh, darn it, we got our torches and pitchforks for nothing. But I was quickly silenced by Sonic. She helped us find an emerald, he pointed out. Let's give her the benefit of a doubt. No one could deny that, and they eventually dispersed. Sally waited until everyone but Sonic had gone, and then turned to look at Lydia. No words passed between the cousins, but a look of admiration in Sally's eyes was enough. She turned to watch Sonic, and they walked off together. Lydia smiled and walked back to her hut. When she did, she saw Dorian out of bed and trying to get to a window. "Where are you going?" she demanded, placing a sleeping Isabella back in her bed. "I did not realize you were a princess," he said, his breathing labored. "I do not wish to cause trouble for you. I will leave." Lydia looked into his eyes and saw a soul that was bound by a strict code of honor and loyalty. "You will stay, provided you give me your word that you will cause no trouble while you are here." Dorian sighed. "Very well, you have my word." He then slumped to the floor unconscious. Lydia dragged him to her bed and somehow managed to get him back on it. After making sure she was comfortable, he grabbed her an extra blanket and pillow and spread them out near Isabella's bed and tried to get some sleep. Lydia did not sleep well that night, so when she heard someone knock on her door just before sunrise, she had to drag herself to her feet. "Who is it?" she muttered tiredly. "Lydia, it's me, Rosie," a soft voice answered. "Rosie?" Lydia blinked to sleep from her eyes and opened the door. Rosie had a smile on her face as she entered, but it turned to a look of concern when she saw Lydia's condition. "Didn't you sleep last night?" she asked. Lydia shrugged, indicating the blanket on the floor. "He needed the bed more than I did," she said. "Well, I'm here to fix that." Rosie walked over to Dorian and started unwrapping the bandages that covered his shoulder. "What are you doing?" Lydia asked in a fierce whisper, because Isabella was starting to stir. "I know some healing ways," Rosie answered, "and I'm just here to help." "Yeah, and I bet Sally sent you so she could get rid of Dorian quicker." Rosie shrugged and placed her hands on the wound. A soft glow emanated from her hands, and Dorian's sleep seemed to grow deeper and easier. After a moment, Rosie looked at her hands. "I healed the wound, but he'll still be weak from the loss of blood. He better spend a few days resting to regain his strength." "Thank God for freaking clerics." Lydia nodded. "Thanks, Rosie." "Don't mention it. Now, I better be going. I promised Tails and Sandra that I'd make breakfast for them." Lydia smiled and opened the door. Rosie walked by her, stopping only at the blanket on the floor for a second. Lydia closed the door behind her and practically fell on the blanket. It was only then she noticed a light glow coming from the blanket, but then she was too sound asleep to care. Lydia awoke sometime that afternoon, feeling fully refreshed and ravenously hungry. A delicious smell wafted in from the small area she used as a kitchen, making her mouth water. She sat up, stretched, and looked around. Dorian stood by the stove, cooking something up in a large pan. Isabella was sitting on the counter nearby, talking to Dorian senselessly. But instead of being bothered by it, Dorian seemed happy to have someone to talk to. By the way he moved his arm, Lydia could tell that Rosie had done her job well. But by the slow speed he was moving, she could tell he was still awake. Isabella turned her head and saw Lydia awake. "Mommy's awake!" she cried, jumping off the counter and running to her mother. Lydia had just enough time to brace herself before Isabella barreled into her arms. "Sleep well, Mommy?" "Actually, yeah," she said, trying to disentangle herself from Isabella's embrace. "What time is it?" "About 2:30, Dorian said over his shoulder. "You look like you had a rough night, so we decided to let you sleep. I hope my cooking didn't wake you up." Lydia's stomach growled loudly, enough to be heard by everyone in the hut. "Actually, I'm glad it did," she said, giving up on Isabella. She stood up with Isabella's arms still lashed around her neck. I'm so hungry, I could even eat a swap bot. Well, hey, I'm so hungry, I can eat an Octorok. Hey, I thought I said we set the security systems to no bad Sonic memes. Sorry. Twilight says he'll be down in a bit to fix it. Oh, good. We kinda need that. Dorian chuckled good-naturedly as Lydia sat down at a table. My cooking may not be as high in iron as a slotbot, but I think you'd like it. Right around sunset, Lydia emerged from the hut. I'll only be gone an hour or so, she called inside. You sure you don't mind? Positive. Dorian called back, go do what you have to. Lydia smiled and closed the door. She walked towards Sally's hut with a smile on her face. For some reason, she felt better than she had in years. A weight that had been on her soul was lifting, and a spring in her step. Unfortunately, it did not last long. Almost every animal she passed had a dirty look or unkind word for her. Lydia's shock was how open they were being about it. At least before, they had tried to some extent to hide their feelings. Now, as if each face was an open book and a library that condemned her. She held her peace, but knew she could no longer keep this from Sally. Sally and Sandra were sitting at a table as Lydia walked in, heads bowed and discussing. Sonic and Tails were in the back, looking glum. I'm telling you, it's happening all over again, Sandra said. Calm down, Sandra, Sally said. You have no proof. Proof of what? Lydia asked. All of them looked up at her. Words that Sandra had been about to say were suddenly trapped behind her clamped lips. If you have something to say, Sandra, you could say it in front of me, Lydia said. Sandra sighed. Remember what I told you Dorian was doing to me? Well, rumors are popping up again. This time that you were in league with him. You got to be joking. Why would I turn against my own family? Easy, Lydia, Sonic said. We never said we believed them. I have not. Lydia, I know you're only trying to do what's best, Sally said in a calm voice. But we can't afford to have Knothole divided over anything. The race is far too important. So what do you want me to do? Throw him out? That's not my fault, Tails said. Tails, Sally said angrily. I never thought I heard something like that from you. What do you want, Aunt Sally? He was the one that got you roboticized, caused Sandra to run away. How do you expect me to feel about him? I feel the same way you do, Miles, Sandra said. But think of it like this. Are we getting better than him if we resort to his tactics? Tails grumbled something under his breath and turned to face out the window. Meanwhile, Lydia was slowly growling anger. On my life, she began in an icy tone, I was looked upon to lead the people. Then, just because I followed my heart and made what they termed a mistake, I got booted out, so I could sympathize with Dorian. He did what he did because he owed 70 a debt of honor. Owes a debt, Tails interrupted. That's the problem. Even so, he gave me his word of honor that he wouldn't cause any problems here. From what I heard, he'll keep it. Tails said nothing more, but continued to stare out the window. After we caught him, he did act honorably, Sandra pointed out. If he has given his word, that's enough for me. Tails got up and suddenly stormed out the hut. Yo, Tails, wait up! Sonic called, spraying out after him. You know, guys, the thing is, I know that this was made today. There would be a little split amongst people yelling and ranting about this. And I do know there would be a lot of people who wouldn't give him a second chance. A lot of people would be on Tails' side. And of course, doing what they've always done whenever a character tries to be, good or better than you expect. Wanting to give redemption or trying to be better or trying to give people a second chance. They'll be mocked, insulted, and called an idiot for it. Gotta hate some morons some days. I better go talk to him, Sandra said, walking out. If he doesn't listen to Sonic, he'll listen to me. Lydia and Sally stared at each other. Suddenly quiet hut. I'm sorry for all the trouble I'm causing, Lydia whispered. Sally sighed. I know, Lydia, and I understand. Just do me a favor. Make sure you're doing this for all the right reasons. What do you mean, Sally? Lydia asked. Sally had already opened up Knothole and was engrossed with something on her screen. Sally, now's not the time to start playing the Sonic 2 mobile game on me. Lydia threw up her hands in disgust and walked out. Sally sighed as she watched her cousin go. Keep an eye on him, Lydia, she said. Knothole, bring up everything you have on the Lexford family. Lydia walked back to her hut, her mind full. She needed some time to sort out her emotions and was looking forward to a quiet evening tonight. She stopped a few feet from her hut, suspicion suddenly flaring in her heart. Though it was getting dark out, no torches lit the inside of her hut. Isabella was not one to spend much time inside the dark. She approached the hut cautiously. Isabella? Dorian? She called softly. No answer. Lydia opened the door and peered inside. No one was there. There were no signs of a struggle. Lydia stood for a moment, wondering what could have happened, when fear took hold. She grabbed Samantha from her boot. Samantha, locate Isabella Evergreen, she ordered over her phone. Okay, now, Samantha returned. She's on a path 15 meters east of here with an unknown male canine. Are they walking toward or away from Knothole? Away. Lydia ran down the path, calling Isabella's name. Just ahead of them, Dorian and Isabella were walking down the path. When they heard Lydia's frantic calls, they stopped and turned. Isabella called, waving. Lydia ran up to her daughter, swept her arms. Don't you ever do that again! She cried, hugging her daughter close. Do what, Mommy? Isabella asked with an instant to tell her. I was just doing Dorian in our path. Lydia looked around, recognizing the area now. Oh, my, she said softly. Dorian gazed slowly at Lydia. I'm sorry if we upset you. Isabella was very insistent, and I thought you would be gone longer. I saw no harm in it. Forgive me? Lydia blushed uncomfortably. I should be the one asking you for forgiveness, she said. Whatever for? Because of what I thought happened, she said, looking away. Dorian walked to her and turned her to face toward him. You were concerned for your child. That is more than understandable. Especially considering my reputation around here. I should have been more thoughtful. Lydia's blush deepened. We should get back, she said, walking toward Knothole. Must resist. Must resist. That night, Lydia laid awake on the floor, looking at Dorian. She still felt the gentle firmness of his grasp on her chin, and she smiled. Old feelings were stirring in her heart, feelings she thought were long dead. 4 years to be dead, in fact. In a way, it frightened her. But in another way, she accepted it and encouraged it. Okay, you asked for it. Sally, Bunny, Mina, Fiona, Sandra, Rouge, Muse's outfits. There's a price for law and judgment. I guess I've already won that. No man is worth the aggravation. That's ancient history. Been there, done that. Who do you think you're kidding? He's the earth and heaven to you. Try to keep it hidden. Honey, we can see right through you. Girl, adults can't see it. We know what you're feeling and who you're thinking of. No chance, no way, I won't say it, no, no. You sigh, why deny it, uh-oh. It's too cliche, I won't say I'm in love. I thought my heart had heard this lesson. It feels so good when you start out. My head is screaming, get a grip, girl. Unless you're dying to cry your heart out. Girl, you can't deny it. Who you are is how you're feeling. Baby, we're not buying. How we saw you hit the ceiling. Face it like a grown-up. When you're gonna own up. Now you got it bad. No chance, no way, I won't say it, no, no. Give up, give in, check the grin, you're in love. The scene, the role play, I won't say I'm in love. We'll do it until you admit you're in love. You're way off base, I won't say it. Get off my case, I won't say it. Girl, don't be proud, it's okay, you're in love. Oh, at least out loud, I won't say I'm in love. Sally's words came back to her mind. Make sure you're doing this for the right reasons, she had said. Lydia had no idea what she was talking about then, but now she knew. To be perfectly honest, she no longer cared. She made up her mind to see this through no matter the consequences. The next few days went by fairly normally. Dorian was good to his word, and some of the animals in Knothole were wavering in their hatred of him. The race for the emeralds seemed to have stalled as no new information had come to light. Tales had been apparently talked around by Sonic and Cassandra, but he still refused to come anywhere near Lydia's hut until Dorian left. One night, after Lydia had been yet another exhausting meeting, she came home to find Isabella curled up in Dorian's arms, sound asleep. Everyone, aww! An open book lay on the table, and Dorian had a very thoughtful look on his face. Lydia took Isabella from his arms, snapping Dorian out of his train of thought. I'm sorry, he said quickly. I didn't even see you come in. That's okay, Lydia replied as he put Isabella down on her bed. Do you mind if I ask you what you were thinking about? Not at all. If you must know, I was thinking of you. Oh. Lydia stood with her face turned away from him, so he could not see her blush. Dorian nodded. I was thinking of how lucky you are. You have a beautiful daughter, a loving family, and many friends who care deeply about you. Though I once had family and friends, I never found one who I could give away my heart as you did to Jonathan. And now, I don't even have that. Lydia turned to Dorian, who quickly stepped into his arms and hugged him. Dorian stood unmoving for a moment, but then his arms circled her. They stayed there for a moment, holding each other, but then Dorian pulled away. What is it? She asked, looking at him. I cannot do that, he said, turning away. It's not right. Honey, I've already had 2 song cues in this fic. Don't make me go for a third. Don't make me pull I would do anything for love. Because I will. I so totally will do that. What do you mean? I'm taking advantage of your kindness. You have taken me in to give me time to heal. Now I'm here, and I should leave. Or my eyes from Quest for Camelot. But you don't want to, do you? Dorian shook his head slowly. No matter what I want, I have to. I made a promise to others, and I have to keep it. Lydia felt tears welling up in her eyes. Just like that? You have nothing else to say? You know, this does make an excellent romance book cover for one of Rarity's trashy novels. You know, a really buff dog holding a really lovely cat girl. Dorian shook his head again. I'd like to, Lydia said. Before she could, Dorian placed a finger on her lips. Please don't. Anything you say right now you might regret later, and I would make it harder for me to leave. I still have my debts of honor to repay, and they must come first. After that, things may be different, but for now, it just cannot be. I would do anything for love. Lydia looked down. She knew he was right. I was only trying to do what was right, but I didn't make it any easier. If you're going to go, she said, go now. I don't think I can control myself another night. I sense lemon incoming. Dorian nodded and walked to the door. You'll see me again, he says as he opened the door. Say goodbye to Isabella for me. He closed the door softly after he left. Okay, so there's not a lemon incoming, but, I'm playing it in my head. Lydia threw herself onto the bed crying. She should have known better to let herself become attached to him in that way. She knew he would have to leave, but a part of her had been hoping he wouldn't. This was the second worst moment of her life. The worst had been losing Jonathan. Soft footsteps approached their hut. Dorian, she called, hope flaring wildly in her heart. Die, traitors! A gruff voice called. 2 objects flew into the window and burst into flames as he hit the door. Lydia screamed in terror. She grabbed Isabella and ran for the door. but it was bolted from the outside. "Help!" she cried as Isabella woke up. "What's going on, Mommy?" she asked in a frightened voice. Lydia took one of the blankets and wrapped it around her daughter's mouth and nose. "It's okay, honey," she said, trying to stay calm. "Everything's going to be okay." All the huts emptied as the flames erupted from the roof of Lydia's hut. "Lydia!" Sally screamed, heading for the door. A large metal pole was blocking the door. Sally and some of the others tried to move it out of the way, but it was too hot to touch. "Sandra, get Dulcie! Sonic, can you get in there?" "Stand back!" Sonic yelled, ripping up his legs as Sandra and Tails went in search of Dulcie. He tried to spin fast through the door, but the flames poured out of it as soon as he broke through. He raced back out, rolling in the dirt to extinguish the flames on him. "Sonic!" Sally ran to his side, helping to smother the flames. "Are you alright?" Sonic tried to get his feet. "I'll go through the wall this time," he said in obvious pain. "I'll go," Sally said, rubbing up her legs and adjusting her casement ring. Before she could, a figure emerged from the forest, making for the hut at full speed. "Lydia! Isabella!" Dorian screamed, flying through the hole with his arms covering his head. He looked around, but the electric smoke stunned his eyes. "Dorian! Over here!" Lydia called, coughing. Dorian focused on her voice and made his way to her. He grabbed both her and Isabella in his arms and made for the opening he made in the wall. Just as he was escaping, flames shot across the opening, searing him. He yelled in pain, but kept going until they were clear. Bunny and Antoine jumped on him, patting him with a blanket. Dulcie flew in and blasted the hut with her icy breath, extinguishing the flames in a second. But the damage was already done. The hut had been frozen mats of charred wood. It had to be torn down and rebuilt. Sonic and Dorian were both badly burned, Dorian more severely. Lydia and Rosie tended to the injured, while Sally tried to calm her rage. "Who did this?" Sally demanded, eyeing the crowd. "I think we can answer that," Teal said. Sally looked at Solomon with Sandra, dragging an enamel encased in crystal. With a touch, Sandra broke the crystal. A young pig stood up and tried to run, but Tails grabbed him and pulled him down. "We found him hanging in the woods with his sack," Tails said in place of Sandra, throwing a canvas back to Sally. Sally opened it up. Inside were some strips of cloth and 3 hollowed-out gourds filled with a dark liquid. "That looks like oil," she said, closing the sack and tossing it to the rotor. "Where did you get it?" "Where did you think?" the pig said. "I stole it from Rotor's workshop." "What's happening to us?" Sally asked in despair. "We're supposed to be fighting Robotnik, not each other. We've been fighting this war for over 12 years now, but this is the first time anyone here has ever tried to kill another one of us. Dorian got me roboticized, and Sandra almost got to run away, but he never wanted to hurt anyone." She tried to go in, but collapsed in terms of frustration and sorrow. "I think it would have been cooler if Sally just brought out her scepter and just went full princess, and rather than just start crying." A gloved hand rested on her shoulder. Hurried as he was, Sonic still found the strength to try and comfort her. As she looked into his blackened face, she saw the love in his eyes. She just hugged him. Sonic winced as he did, but he did not cry out. Sandra picked up the pig roughly and pushed him towards Bunny and Antoine. "Take him to his hut and keep him under 24-hour guard," she said. "We'll deal with him after we fix everything." Sonic picked Sally up, though in obvious pain. He carried her slowly to her hut, with Rosie following behind. Lydia kneeled by Dorian and tried to make him comfortable. "You came back," she whispered, holding his hand. "I had to," he said. "As soon as I saw the flames, I knew I had to save you and Isabella." Isabella kissed Dorian hugged Dorian around his neck. "Thank you," she said, kissing his charred cheek. A few days passed as Knothole recovered from the fire. The pig, insisting that he could not work with Lydia, was sent to another Freedom Fire group into the north. "Oh, we should have sent him down with another. Barbie the koala could handle him." Sally told everyone who felt he did to join him, but they could expect to remain there forever. Needless to say, the pig made a very lonely journey. Sonic and Dorian soon recovered from their wounds. Rosie had done what she could, but then gotten Tannis to do the rest. Tannis said he wasn't violating the covenant by healing the wounded, and told Sally to remember that in the future. After Dorian was fully recovered, he was summoned to appear before the 3 princesses. Each one sat at a table in Sally's hut. Lydia sat at Dorian's left, Sally in the center, and Sandra on the right. Each one had their respective computers on a table in front of them. Sandra's playing Galaga. He doesn't think we notice, but we all do. I am here as you requested, Dorian said, bowing. Sally stood up. You know what you have done in the past, she began. What you've done recently has not changed those facts. Yet it does give much more belief to your claim as to your actions. I have checked your family history, and there are many instances of a Lyxford armor showing up. More importantly, Lydia said, standing, you saved my life, and the life of my daughter at great risk to your own. I have asked my cousins to repeal the sentence of banishment that is currently on you. However, Sandra said, standing, we cannot forget that you still owe a debt of honor to one of our enemies, so a total repealment is out of the question, but we have struck a compromise of sorts. As long as you are honor-bound to serve Snively, we can now allow you to stay in Knothole. However, as such a time as your debts are repaid, you can return here if you choose. Thank you, princesses, Dorian said, bowing again. This is more than I hoped for. We're not done yet, Lydia said testily. Their bad moods were getting worse, but no one could figure out why. You are to leave Knothole at once. Wait. What, Trixie? Trixie just had a thought. Sally's voice sounds very similar to your Celestia voice. Yeah. Sandra sounds like a higher pitched version of your Twilight voice. Yeah. And you just gave your little voice to Lydia. Yeah. What's your point, Trixie? Trixie's just saying you couldn't get away with the idea of doing the three princesses thing with Luna, Celestia, and Twilight, could you? Sally said, a hidden smile on her face. But you're also to remain on the path outside its borders for 5 minutes, that one who wishes to speak to you may do so. As you wish. Dorian walked out of the hut and along the path that led out of Knothole. When he reached the border, he waited, as he had been told to do so. 2 minutes later, Land tapped helpfully on his shoulder. He turned and was hugged immediately by Lydia. He tried to pull away, but Lydia kissed him soundly on the lips. Dorian struggled a moment later, then hugged and kissed her back. There were birds flying, flowers were blooming, the sun was rising. After a few minutes, Lydia pulled away. I know what you said, she began, and I won't say it. But I think that kiss made it very obvious. Dorian nodded. It should be obvious that I feel the same way. But now that circumstances being they are, I'll have to wait to act on it at all. Lydia nodded, smiling. Plus, just promise me, you'll come back to me when this is all over. I promise. He lifted her hand to his lips and kissed it. I'll be back. He turned and walked away, waving. Oh, my word, how romantic. I know. This is just so sweet. I want Dorian to be voiced by Liam. Oh. I promise. I'll be back. He walked away, waving. Lydia turned back, walking toward Knothole. Isabella standing a few way away. Will you ever see him again? Isabella asked. I hope so. Lydia picked up her daughter and headed to their newly rebuilt hut, a smile on their faces. After the whole entire sex bit things with the last 2 episodes, I'm glad that they really hit it out of the park with this one.